I think it's a very good thing when USADA looks at something and gives guys a way out for tainted supplements. And I know that term is very frustrating for you guys to hear because it's the go-to move of cheaters. And we're seeing it more and more, and it's just, you want to, as soon as you hear it, it goes over your head, you brush it off your shoulder. But there is some truth to it. And when you guys do hear guys like Yoel Romero, like Tim Means, like Little Nog, like Anderson Silva, like Junior Dos Santos, when you do hear Josh Barnett, these guys who are cleared on a tainted supplement, I realize that frustrates you, but take it from me. It is very hard to meet that criteria. And even though that term tainted supplement gets thrown out there, it is very, very sophisticated on what USADA does to reach that conclusion. And I think USADA deserves credit because there's not very many organizations anywhere, let alone an outside testing, third-party testing agency, who is willing to admit fault. And though USADA does not have to admit fault when it's a tainted supplement, they're very close to it, and people are hesitant to do that. And I think they deserve credit when they do the investigative work and come to the proper conclusion and then come out and reveal the proper conclusion. What I'm speaking to is I think that the term tainted supplement just does go over your guys' head a lot. To tie this back in with John Jones, if he had a tainted supplement, they would be able, within precedent, to allow him to fight earlier than the 2-year ban, which would be the floor, would be the minimum ban for a repeat offender, which would bring you to summer of 2019. I don't know of any other way that they could possibly find a way around it. I just don't know. I will be learning something when and if they do it, and I'm predicting that they will do it. I don't know with what clause they will use. But I will offer to you this. They will have a big problem if they do a tainted supplement clause. Only because John also had a hearing where he went, and I'm not against John coming back and fighting, by the way. I have to throw that at you. This is a guy I'm a guy that's been in John's shoes, so I just understand some of the nuances of these rules better than anybody else because I was forced to learn them for the wrong reasons. I want to disclose that. This is not me speaking against John. I expect him to fight on Madison Square Garden, but I also hope that he fights on Madison Square Garden. But to finish my thought aloud, I am curious as to how. You have to then come out with how did you allow that when we have all very clearly been told a repeat offender sits 2 years minimum and up to 4 years on a maximum. We've been told that in no uncertain terms. We have seen some instances where that hasn't held up. For example, the tainted supplement. So I'm just laying the facts out there. I am not sharing an opinion. I hope my tone does not sound as though I am leaning one way or the other, but I will share this with you. If we were just to look at the body of evidence and the information that we have and our ability to understand it, which we all have to admit, even though I may have a more expert opinion than some, I'm not a lawyer and I haven't read that stuff inside and out. John Jones, though, went to California before he has to deal with USADA. John Jones was sworn in and went under oath, and when he got to California, he was still hanging his hat on the argument of tainted supplement. When he went to California, he brought his evidence forward, which consisted of 12 supplements he was taking, okay? All of them were tested, laboratory tested, and all of them came back negative for a tainted supplement. So that issue is now settled. So I do not know how they could possibly go back, and I'm only foreshadowing because I haven't seen any other way to do it and get a reduced sentence. I've only seen tainted supplements, same as you guys. So we have to make the assumption, which is never a great way to do things, but we must make the assumption with the evidence we have that he is going to go with this tainted supplement route, that they are going to rule in his favor and rule that he somewhere had a tainted supplement. The problem they are going to be immediately met with is that he already went under oath and checked in every single supplement that he had and checked in the science behind the testing of it, of which said they were not tainted. So if you exclude that argument, the one and only argument that we've ever seen work, which is the reason we're believing that he's going to go with it, if you were to exclude that argument and bring something else in, it will have to be something that we simply have not seen before. Which is why I have an inability to predict state and explain to you guys. If they're not going to go with the 2-floor, 4-ceiling scenario that they have very clearly explained multiple times, and they're going to defer back to a tainted supplement, which under oath testimony with scientific evidence to support it said was not the case, then they have to go to third base. I just don't know what that would be. So we're all going to see something there of some capacity, or we're not, or the weeks are going to roll by and somebody else is going to come out as headlining that card, which I also think is very exciting, because when we look at the co-main event of that card, which is Dustin Poirier versus Nate Diaz, and they are solidified in the co-main event, that tells us that the main event is going to be something very special. And Madison Square Garden, as disgusting as New York is a very coveted arena for reasons that I will never understand, but I will go ahead and accept them. So, they usually do something really big and special. And if you don't have John, which is the speculation, if Anderson's date doesn't quite match up with that, if George is not coming back, if Woodley's defending here, if Tyron and Khabib is going to be settled, what are you going to do? And I'm sure there's a really great answer. I just have to know everything. I have to know everything at all times. I can't go on without knowing. And I don't know. I couldn't even guess. I couldn't even guess what they were going to do. And I don't know, even though I threw out Anderson, and I think his dates may match up for Madison Square Garden. There was some kind of conversation on that. Excuse me. And Ed Soros led that. Ed Soros led the conversation. But I'm having to go off of memory, but I do believe that Ed said reluctantly, he disagreed with this, but that it was going to be ruled against that Anderson could not fight on Madison Square Garden. Now, Anderson Silva, as much as he is loved and as much as we do enjoy seeing him fight, is also not the tremendous draw they would lead you to believe. I do not know if he's a big enough draw, particularly unless he has the right opponent to be able to trump Diaz and Poirier. And again, that was not sour grapes at Anderson Silva. I'm just saying we already have our bar. That's what I'm speaking to. Yes, you could bring Anderson in on any card and main event it. He hasn't been less than a main event in a meaningful period of time. Don't fact check me on that, guys. Don't bring up the Brunson fight and then tell me where Daniel Cormier versus Anderson sat on the card. I don't want to hear it. You guys get my point. He's a very good draw, and those arenas have sold out regardless of where he was on the card. That isn't my message to you. My message is in the world of trying to do our due diligence and our detective work so we can create some kind of conversation, whether it's accurate or not. We just need evidence to support it. The bar being set at Diaz-Poirier, I think it's very hard to believe that Anderson would be the one that would come in and save the day. We know it's not going to be George. We know it's not going to be Conor. We know it's not going to be Ronda. We know it's not going to be Lesnar. We know it's not going to be Cormier. We know it's not going to be Stipe. We know it's not going to be Mighty Mouse. I mean, we've got all these things that we know it's not going to be. But we don't know what it is going to be, which brings me back, which isn't great evidence, but it still does bring me back to the conclusion of John Jones. And I think it's going to be versus Alexander Gustafsson. And I've noticed they're booking up light heavyweights. They're not keeping a whole bunch of them free. The only one really free right now is Gus. And Gus is putting out different stories than his promoter is putting out. One of them's right. There could be miscommunication. There's a number of reasons why they would be putting out alternative facts. I'm just choosing to believe, to support my conspiracy theory and to support my prediction that it's because they're keeping him on ice and he's going to fight John Jones. That's what I'm predicting. All right.